So today we are going to talk about this topic, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle, and that's the topic we are focusing on today. So that how can we help our kids to develop an eco-friendly habit in the kids? Now, I am your host for the session, and Vandana has already been sweet enough to introduce me to all of you. I will just pass on this slide, and I have a question for all of you in the next slide, and let's see. Do you think this is a relevant topic? Now, that's the first question. Okay, you see. So we have absolutely. Okay, Madhuri is answering. Priscilla. Then we have Ishwarya, Neha, Anita, Jinal. Everyone is talking about. We are including that this is a relevant topic. Okay, give me a second, guys. I have not faced any audio issues in past. Okay, so everyone is saying this is a relevant topic. Good. So let's go ahead and let me ask you this question, which is on the next slide. If you were a superhero fighting for the 3 hours, what would your name be, and what powers would you have? Okay, so there's a question for all of you, and I want you to answer for me. If you were a superhero fighting for the 3 hours, what would your name be, and what powers would you have? RRR. Okay, Savannah, that was a good one. I think the movie got inspiration from there. Give me some other name. I don't want RRR. And I want to know about your superpowers also. RHAR, Rahar, soldier. Okay, nature, power, recreation, mom, multitasking. Okay, R cube. That can be a good answer. Shaktiman, like you're being so not at all creative. Pagal with all the powers. Rethink, Deepa says. I want to reach anywhere easily available. I want to have to create something for teleporting for you. Superman, golden words, 3 man. Okay, R3. Now, these are some interesting names which are coming up. Now, you're not still shared with me what kind of superpowers will you have. I want to see Krish 3. It's already there. I think Krish 3 is already there. I'm not sure. Okay, recycle, recap, and research are for future. Okay. I think you've given me a tagline, Harshita. Fine. Okay, to recreate things, weapon is saying. So we all have some superhero name. I think by end of this session, you will think of a good name for yourself, and let's have ourselves called by that name. Recycling things and remodeling into newer things. Okay, that will be there. Renovate. Ah, nice one. Want to read mind of all. Okay. So you want superpowers for the recycling process, and then you are asking for reading mind of everyone. That's more personal, I believe. Okay, so I think we have got some names and some certain things. Oceanic. Now, this is Riddhi. I will take your superpower for sure. I will be able to clean the pollutants of the ocean. Now, that looks like a good one. Let's go further from there. Now, let's think in this way. What are the common items around the house that people might not realize can be reused, and how? Can you just look around at your house? I believe all of you are sitting in your house right now. I want you to look around and think about certain common things which you feel that can be reused but we're not using. Plastic, be more specific. Plastic bottles, plastic jars, water, yeah. I think RO water, it can be recycled in multiple ways. Newspaper, leaves, leaves more for decoration purpose. Okay, wood, our water, napkins. We have waste product sticks. Okay, carton box. Then we have clothes. Great. So I can actually read that all of you agree that there is a lot of stuff which is around us, which can be recycled, which can be reduced, and which can be reused again and again. Water used to wash vegetables can be used to wash clothes, maybe. Yes, clothes of elder kids given to younger kids. I think that was something we all have done in our life, not the present kids are into it. So, yes, so we have a lot of stuff which we are talking about. Broken ceramic, yes, we can use it. So while we are discussing all this, the interesting part is, I will just tell you one thing. 97% of scientists agree that humans are causing recent climate change. Now, some of us may disagree to it and say that no, we are not responsible and this is not what we are doing. But 97 of scientists are actually agreeing to one fact for sure that humans are responsible for climate change. Now, we can say that I am not contributing to it, but then we are designating humans and not Surabhi or Shravani or Suman as a name. We're talking about the complete Homo sapiens community as an all. So that's what we're saying. And this becomes much more specific when we look at, the images like this, the way the ocean currents are rising or the winds are changing or extreme events change are happening. We can look at the carbon dioxide concentration rising. This image says a lot. We talk about base low in stream decreasing. We are talking about changing organic chemistry or ocean chemistry completely changing. These are few of the areas which is something we are already discussing and talking about again and again. But what becomes much more concerning for me is that when we talk about that all this is going to increase 10 folds or 20 folds because of the growth in human population. While we are talking about right now, 7.6 billion in humans inhabit Earth. We are talking about somewhere around, India is a very strong contributor to it. We are talking about 10.9 billion humans by 2050. And if this keeps on going at the pace that we are actually looking at a very strong consequence in the field of food production. More human beings means that you need more food. Agriculture in itself indirectly also contributes to a lot of climate change. We are talking about a lot of deforestation for construction purpose. We are talking about sea level rise. We are talking about greenhouse effect. We are also talking about extinction. We are talking about dozens and dozens of things. Now, if you don't believe me that while I'm sharing all these statements or things with you, this is data which is spread across internet everywhere. However, in order to showcase what I actually mean, I want to showcase something to you which is extremely important. And I want to show you certain changes through a very interesting observation. You have to give me a second to reshare my screen and show you something else. Let me show you an interesting observation which is there on my another screen, which is this. I'm going to take you to Google Earth today. I don't know how many of you have already seen Google Earth, but I want to show something very interesting to you, and I want you to focus on my screen while I'm doing it. Now, this is one project on Google Earth which talks about sea level rise. Now, this was kind of, I started looking at somewhere in December, and I brought this for you right now to show you something. I'm going to turn into a slideshow on Google Earth. So you have to, no, this is not the same Ghazal. I think I've not shown you the sea level. If I've shown you, I don't know. I think I've shown you something else. Did I show you the others? Did I show you the glacier one? That was different. This is, let me show you. I don't know if it's the same one, but let me show it to you. Okay. Now, let me take you to one level over here. So we are talking about the sea level rise, but I want to talk about the sea level rise while I'm also showing you this particular section. So this is with the change in temperature. For instance, we are talking about London specifically. Now, if the temperature becomes 2 degrees warmer, if you look at the screen on the right hand side, which I'm actually showing to you, this is showing me the temperature change or the effect of glaciers with 2 degree rise in temperature. However, and this is the water level, which I'm showing you over here. And if you carefully observe it from here, if you have seen it earlier, you can just let me know. I'm not sure about it. I believe I showed something else, but I wanted to show this one specifically. Now, if I'm increasing the temperature by 4 degrees over here, the water level drastically rises over here, if you see carefully. So this is my water level. I can actually go further into it and show you to at a very specific level over here. So the water level is rising. Now this may not seem that accurate to you, but let me take you to places which makes more sense. Let me show you what would happen of New York City. Now this is New York City if there is 4 degrees Celsius warming up. So we are talking about the climate change at the global warming level. If the global warming reaches 4 degrees higher to what is happening right now, this is going to happen. So these are the places in USA which are going to get drenched badly, and the most affected areas would be very much near to the coastal area, the coastal lines. Let's go to the next slide, which is more, I want to show you Mumbai actually, specifically. Now this is Mumbai, India. Now if you look at this image specifically on my right, if you look at this image, specifically the Mumbai, this is gateway of India. Now, if it was 2 degrees Celsius warmer compared to what we are looking at right now, this is what we are looking at. The gateway of Mumbai is already completely drenched in. And if it goes 4-degree warmer, this is what is going to happen of gateway of India. And this is what is going to happen of Mumbai. Now, these are all the places in Mumbai, and you can imagine Mumbai is already a kind of a suburb area, and it will get completely, drenched away in the water that we are expecting. So, when we are completely talking about climate change, it may not look to us right now what kind of consequences it will cause. But when you are looking at all these images or all these pictures, you actually realize that the climate change is going to affect the temperature and areas and what kind of consequences we are going to enter into. This is a beautiful Google Earth link, and you can go yourself and you can actually see, yes, Manish, it will be completely submerged in water. This is again Shanghai, China, where we can actually see what's going to happen. Then we have Lagos, Nigeria, which we have mentioned over here. So there are various places which is mentioned. You can just search for, the sea level rise in coastal areas, and you will find this particular project on Google Earth. This is not something which I've created. This is something which is there on Google Earth by default, and that you can actually see, and you can show to your children that why we are talking about climate change, why we are talking about global warming, and why we are so much scared about it. So that was one thing which I wanted to share with you to show the impact the climate change is going to cause for all of us. Now, while we are discussing this topic, it became important for us that we start talking about sustainable goals and we start talking about ways to maintain these levels so that in the future to come, we all are not entering into a stage where it becomes difficult for us to even live on this planet. And that's why this discussion of how do we manage the waste that we are producing, how do we actually reduce the waste we are producing, and how do we go and consume and recycle the things which are already there. So in today's discussion we are going to pick up the 4 major topics that I've kept for you. Let me share my other screen for you to get back on this project. Just a second. So here it is. I wanted to show this one to you. Now let's go back and talk about what all are we going to discuss today. So our today's discussion is about waste. The second part we will be discussing would be about reducing the things we are producing as waste, then reusing, and then recycling stuff. These are the 4 core areas that we will be focusing on in today's discussion. Now, while we were discussing about it, why it becomes important, I will now bring only the Indian context into the story and leave the global context for a while. Now, this is particularly a headline which talks about recovery and reuse of waste will play a key role in India's growth story. We are equating the growth story with the recovery and reuse of waste. Now, some of us can argue that growth is something different and waste is something different. So, why are we equating it? Yes, Paramjit, waste should be properly disposed of and we should reduce waste. That's what we all want to do. But how do we do that is something we are going to discuss today at a kids level when we are talking about a grade 1 to grade 5 level, and the discussion comes there. There is also another headline from Economic Times which says reduce, reuse, and recycle way to clean cities and sustainable environment. That's another thing we are talking about. Now let's go to the section of waste and dig deeper into it. That what exactly do we want to talk about in this section? Somebody has given a statistic which looks interesting. 30 to 70% of global warming is due to water vapors. How can we control it? Okay, so we are more focusing there, but yes, let's limit ourselves into the scope here, and then we can get to the questions there. Okay, so 26,000 tons is the daily waste produced in India. Now, this is just the beginning of the discussion. We are talking about how do we manage 26,000 tons of waste produced. I was reading a climate report, which was basically a roadmap which was created that how we can actually manage that waste. And according to that report, only 4 to 5 or 6% of the daily waste produced is something we are able to recycle right now. By 2050 or 2030, I believe the target is to reach 10% because you cannot have a sudden jump in recycling. And if we talk about reaching 2050, it's somewhere around reaching 40% of recycle is a goal which we have kept somewhere around in 2050 because of the heavy amount of waste that we are producing in India. Now we all are contributors of this waste. That's the trouble area. And that's why each one of us can contribute in controlling it. Now, why are we specifically focusing on schools and talking about the 3 R's? Is because of the reason that the majority of population who's going to be affected through all this waste and everything that we have produced is going to be that young generation. And the kids can act as an army of people who can control the waste production by making sure that everything is getting controlled in their houses, or they are developing a habit from the very beginning which is more sustainable. So that's why we keep on having all these discussion around the school kids, specifically in that zone. Now, while we go towards it, if I have to give you a state-wise bifurcation, then this is much more alarming. Now, this is not directly proportional to the population area. If you look at it like that, it is more proportional towards the industrialization or the places which are based. So Maharashtra is contributing at a very high level than the Avutra. It's not that I'm not being specific to any place, but then these are the areas which are acting as great contributors into the waste production that we are doing every year. So yes, so we all are contributing in one way or the other. Now, however, while we are talking about waste production, there has been multiple case studies, and these case studies has been picked up from the government roadmap, which is getting built up in order to manage waste. So there are a lot of stories which are coming up in which people from a local region are contributing into the waste management section. So while many of us are kind of thinking that who will get involved, it's a dirty job or it's not our job, there are companies and there are businesses who are getting built around in managing that, because waste management is also going to become a very big industry in time to come. That's what the statistics is talking about. Now, there is an interesting case study across, I think this place is from Bangalore, where in this city they started bifurcating, and I think many cities they have already done. There is a strict guidelines with respect to dry waste and wet waste and the kind of way it is collected. When I went back and started reading about it, I kind of understood that the biggest challenge the waste management team has, if the waste is not bifurcated into sections. So, separating the waste in itself is a very difficult thing, because it completely discourages the people who are managing waste and becomes much more heavier on them. Now, starting with a small practice at home in which you're keeping the dry waste and the wet waste, and making different subsections of how you are giving the waste for disposal to various people who are coming to pick up on the waste, actually eases out the process. Yes, so Sarika, thank you for kind of letting me know and supporting what I'm sharing. So it's green, blue, and yellow plastic bags in which the waste is actually disposed of, and it becomes easy on the waste management front. So this is one case study which is from Bangalore, where this organization successfully created this model, and it has been expanded over the whole of Karnataka, and they are also planning to kind of expand on this model across the country in various sections. Similarly, I think at a school level, all of us can start with having this model in the school for sure, in the classroom, and in the classrooms, and at a bigger level in school with different color dust places there, so that students get to know and they start disposing of waste in that way. Similarly, there is a case study which is talking about technological innovation and waste management. It is about using technology to monitor the type of waste. So basically, they are talking about increasing coordination at various levels and various stakeholders to identify all the hotspots where a lot of waste is there, and getting it picked up and getting it corrected. So this is also a technological implication. Why am I sharing all these stories? Because it's important to understand what the world is doing around waste. Because at times our horizons are limited towards, okay, I'm doing some work and I'm throwing off the waste, and that's all. We are finishing it off there. The waste management also starts from your chemistry labs and biology labs. The way you are disposing of acids versus the way you are disposing of chemicals versus the way you are disposing of things which are not at all harmful also creates a great difference, because if you keep on disposing of acids into the sewerage, you are actually harming a lot of organisms that are going to consume those acids when this whole drainage gets into picture. So there is also the way in which acids should be disposed of in a way which is safe for everyone, which should be followed as guidelines in schools. So this is one thing. In India, the vehicles come to collect different ways, but people mix them. Yes, Suman, that is one thing. I want to just read what people have. Six color dustbins in Indore for different types of waste, and I think that's the reason Manisha Indore got named as the cleanest city. In our school, a ban on plastic covers and plastic. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff which a lot of schools are doing, which is worth appreciation. It's pretty true. Now, we go further. There are further more case studies. I think you can go back and you can observe them and you can read them. I will not go deeper into it. But then there is a very interesting plastic rule implementation which was held in Goa. And then there is a Swachh cooperative model which was created by the government, which is also giving us very good results as of now. So these are few contributions which we kind of say in the form of case studies. Now let's dig deep and talk about certain 3 R's that we would like to talk about. Some examples of 3 R's which are there. Give me a second, teachers. Yeah. Before we go there, I want to specifically talk about the definition of reduce. So when we talk about reduction, it means using less of something instead of using plastic shopping bag, you bring your own reusable bags. You must have seen this practice. I don't know, like in Hyderabad, we follow this for sure. And it's not for the reason that we are more eco friendly. I think it became more for a reason because we have to pay for the bags in the shopping mall. I am not sure if you're aware about this case study, but there was a case study regarding people are, kind of wasting a lot of money on shopping bags. Not money, but a lot of waste gets produced from the shopping bags. Now, in order to control that, the specifically when you go to centers like Big Bazaar or other places, they ask you that will be paid. Now, in order to reduce that, people bring their own reusable bags. Now, this is also a case study in order to reduce the consumption of plastic bags from these modes. So it's more about that you're reducing one effect or the other. The second one is about reusing stuff, which means you can use things again. For example, you can repair or repurpose them instead of immediately discarding them. Now, in India, comparatively, we have a culture of reusing. If your shoes are broken, you will not just discard them completely, but you will go and mend them and then again you will use them. Same way, there are a lot of stuff. If your clothes are torn, you try to mend them and you pay and actually get them corrected. So we have a reuse culture, but then we are also entering into a culture where the young generation believes in discarding. For example, in terms of electronics. These days, if the mobile phones are not working properly, people don't get them repaired, they just buy a new one. And we are creating a lot of big chunk of e-waste that is specifically called because we have stopped reusing them and recorrecting them. Take students to some place and give them projects. So Sangeeta has some idea on activities. Sangeeta, we will be discussing activities pretty fast. So while we are talking about reduction and reusing, there are some benefits associated with them. For instance, let's talk about some examples. I will go slow ahead. For instance, in case of reduction or reducing, using reusable water bottles. Instead of buying a new Bisleri bottle every time, you carry your own bottles with you while you're traveling. You refill the water because refilling process is available almost at all places, specifically at airports. And even at railway stations when you're traveling, there is a place where you can actually refill your bottles. I have started adopting this practice a lot often more now that I carry my own bottle and then I keep on refilling it at various places when I'm traveling. The second one is buying products with less packaging. Now, that is also one possibility that's more dependent on. I remember the other day I received a package and I received a package and it was an online order that I made. And there was just a small thing, but the package was that big. I was extremely annoyed, extremely annoyed. Yes, online shopping is including a lot of extra packaging. I was extremely annoyed because they kept a lot of space and it was not even something which was fragile, but there was a lot of packaging involved. Even my, this 9-year-old son kept on telling me, Mama, shouldn't they have a process to actually pick up all the extra packages back and then reuse them? And I felt, okay, even this young one is thinking that we are actually wasting packages and we are using a lot of extra package which is not needed. So, yes, I would agree that online packaging is painful and somebody has to keep on talking about it and giving feedback about it. Then we talk about walking or biking instead of diving for short trips. Now, I remember there was a proposal in the city, and there are certain cities which kind of follow this process in order to, kind of reducing the kind of pollution we are making, that they are marking certain zones of the city where you can only use cycle or you can only walk. You cannot actually use vehicles which are run on any kind of thing which releases pollutants. So they are marking the cities in that way. So yes, and there are a lot of countries who have actually started also making those routes that you cannot actually drive in this particular area. There are no vehicle zones specifically, but now they are increasing on the perimeter specifically because of this reason. The second section was reuse. For instance, using a cloth shopping bag instead of plastic bag that you are using for a particular purpose, repurposing old jars as storage containers. Now we all can complain about the consistency, about the looks, but then it's more about zero wastage, and then you start creating a lifestyle where you are reusing things as much as possible. We can use jute bags too, yes. Handling down clothes or toys to younger siblings or friends. So somebody was already sharing that. It is better to donate instead of actually always discarding them. We will also look at some examples of certain brands who have created brands actually by just reusing the textile. So they are creating brands out of it. So this is a lot that we can actually do by again working on it. Next, we talk about a section of recycling, which is talking about putting empty glass, plastic, and paper in recycling bins. Yes, recycling old newspapers and magazines. I think this is a process which is followed in a country for a long time. Turning aluminum cans into new aluminum products. Now, while we are talking about it, I want your contribution on some more ideas which you think can be for let's say reducing. Let's be specific. For the first hour, give me some more examples which you think can be for reducing. We can use waffle cups or biscuit cups in cafes. That's a beautiful idea. I've seen that in one of the, I think, Shark Tank episode, or somebody brought it that they are creating waffle cups now, which is avoiding. I also saw like a lot of places where the whole tea getting replaced in that plastic cups has actually increased the wastage to a lot of extent. Edible cutlery is one good idea. Okay, don't buy what you don't need. Now that's very much into the section of reducing. So I wanted you to be very much specific. Don't buy what you don't need because you're just following this concept. There is a series on Netflix by the name of, I think, Minimalist. It's a documentary. It talks about a beautiful mindset which talks about that how you can live in minimal and still be happy. Being minimalist does not talk about that you are actually going to compromise on something. It's just about that you just have only those things which you need. I have started following this process personally. If I'm not using something for at least a year, it means it has to be discarded. And that's something which I've started doing. My kids are not touching on certain toys. I think it has to be donated or it has to be given away. I have stopped keeping things which are not needed in the house for the purpose that I want to reduce and make space. And also, I don't want to increase on or keep on repeating on buying something. Yeah, earthen cups. So we have a lot of ideas which are coming up. So there are some activity ideas which have been kept. Let me show you one idea. Now these two ideas I have borrowed from somewhere else. So this one I have to look at another screen. So this is what can we do at home and at school to help stop climate change. This is a puzzle which has been created more for the a crossword puzzle which is created more with the ambition of reiterating on the concept of 3 hours into the kids. So if you look at make your own dash paper, form gifts from old newspaper, comics, or decorate grocery bags instead of buying new gifts to wrap paper. And the student have to look for the answer. So the answer I think is easy one. If you can't see below, can you just tell me the answer? Anyone? If you're not reading the answer, I have to hide the answer somewhere. But if you're not able to read the answer, can you just make a wild guess? The question says, make your own dash paper for gifts from old newspaper. Good. Rubita, if you have not cheated from below. Wrapping paper. Okay, let's try the next one. Plant a tree. A tree can absorb up to 50 dash of carbon dioxide each year. What do we say? It's a second one. It's a sixth one. Across. 60%, PRCENT. Or we have something else? Pounds. Yes. So pounds is the correct answer. So if you look at the questions, for instance, the fourth question, pack your lunch in a reusable container instead of a paper or dash bag. So all these questions are created taking into reference very small things that the child has to do in the do activity, so that it can keep on re-emphasizing on the concept of that you have to carefully, look into this area. Similarly, reuse or dash old clothes and toys. Let's try the last one, fifth one. Reuse or dash. The fifth one. The answer will come here. Reuse or dash old clothes and toys. Donate. Yes, Shruti, it's donate. And I remember, I don't know if you would have seen, there is a company, I don't remember its name right now, right away, but there's a company, you just place an order, they will come to your house and they will pick up all the old clothes from your house and they will donate it to somebody. There are also companies in certain regions of Gujarat. I was talking with somebody, they told me that they work like a group and they call it as a Robin group or a Red Robin group, kind of a group, where they actually pick up all the leftover food from your houses and they donate it to somewhere else. So these are also the Robin Hood group, kind of a group is there somewhere in Gujarat, and they were talking about we pick up food and we donate it to different people at night. So there are a lot of places which people are doing right these days in order to donate whatever is left out. Let's see another activity in the same version, which is a Planet Protectors Math Challenge, which is talking about 1 ton of aluminium recycled is equal to 13 tons of carbon dioxide prevented. 1 ton of newspaper is equivalent to 2.5 tons of carbon dioxide prevented. Now the question is, if you prevented 91 tons of carbon dioxide, you will recycle dash tons of aluminium cans. It says, if you prevented 91 tons of carbon dioxide, you recycled dash tons of aluminium cans. Yes. Similarly, if you and your friend each recycle 4 tons of newspaper together, you would prevent dash tons of carbon dioxide. Good. I'm hoping that you're not actually copying the answers from somewhere. But what I wanted to share with all of you was that these are the kind of questions which we can also include. So at many times we may feel that, okay, how do I, it looks boring at times to tell, okay, please don't make things dirty or don't drop it. But what if you integrate it as part of the curriculum and make it as part of the curriculum, then it becomes much more interesting to work with the kids. Referring to it, there are certain benefits, obviously, of reducing and reusing. For instance, you will be reducing greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to climate change. You will be preventing pollution caused by reducing the need to harvest new materials. So, the more we require, the more harvesting. So, the more you will demand that I need, obviously, its production causes more of pollution. We are saving energy. We are reducing a lot of contribution to global climatic change. We are creating a sustainable environment for the next generation. We are also reducing the amount of waste that needs to be recycled. We are saving money for sure. And we are using the products to the fullest extent. So basically, I remember when I was young, and I used to ask my mother that I need a new notebook. So she used to ask me that show me the old notebook if it has finished. And then she would check to the last page to see if I've written everything. And then I used to get a new notebook. Similarly, in order to get a new pencil, I had to deposit the old pencil to her and tell her that, Mama, now it is finished. Now say it is all done. And then she used to tell me. And when I used to complain that why are you so particular about me not wasting things, then she had only one statement that we may have things today, we may not have them tomorrow. And I want you to understand that things do not stay forever and you should know how to maintain them. But I think that was a good practice, which we can actually do. Yeah, we use the last year copies as rough copy. I give my children my old notes copy, which I'm not no more using, and they're using them as rough copies to work upon, which can be done. Yes. So you have, in order to, instead of getting new whiteboard markers, you should actually be refilling the same whiteboard markers. So there are interesting ways in which you can actually get into this habit of reusing or reducing the waste that we are creating ourselves. There is another thing on ideas how to reuse that I would love to talk with all of you about. I would say that there is a very beautiful statement which you can take as a logo back home, which is think green before you shop. Anytime you're going shopping, that you have to talk about that let's think green. So that's one thing. You can go for a shop smarting solution that anytime you are shopping, then you're shopping in a smart way. You are basically reusing or repurposing all the items. You buy used items. Now, some of you may be wondering that who buy used items. Trust me, I invest a lot of money on used books for sure. One, it is financially better because books do not get spoiled by handing over one person to another. Second, I like used books for another reason that people have already marked the interesting notes on it. So I like them for the same reason. You can use refurbished. Like, we buy laptops. I don't know how many would have bought, but I have bought laptops. Must have bought cars, which are second hand in your lifetime. Can you just tell me anything other than this that you would have bought, which is already a used item? Anything? I am not able to recollect. Refills rather than mine, yes, that you can do for pens, mobile phones, refurbished phones. Has anyone bought a refurbished bicycle anytime? I went to Firefox and then I saw that they themselves refurbish bicycles and they have done it. Yeah. Furniture, yes. Many of you would have bought. Yeah, Decathlon actually has it. And anyone else? Anything else that you have bought? So we have kind of vehicles, we have furniture, we have electronics that we have got. Yes. Stationery, specifically the books, I believe. And have you reused the books which are actually recycled? The paper which is recycled, bronze textbooks? Yes. So I think there's a lot of stuff which we can use again and again and which can be refurbished. So, yes, this can be one habit which our kids can develop of reusing things. Clothes, some would have done. Toys, textbook. I used to get all my clothes from my elder sister, my cousin. So we had a family like eight generation, say, not generation, I would say, but then the eldest cousin will keep on passing and it kept on going to the younger cousins till the time did not become a kind of a rag in our house. So we have done that a lot. The kids, I think I have done that with my kids also, some bit. Now, donating unused items. That's another new habit that we actually start forward with. We may have clothes at times that we are not even using, and there are people in the world who don't have clothes. So I think that makes sense that you start donating if you're not using them. Similarly, it could be to your utensils, it could be for your devices, it could be for anything that you're using. You can start donating if you're not using them. Buy products made from recycled content. Now, some may feel that I don't want to buy recycled content. I will show you some samples on the coming slides that how beautiful recycled content can actually look like. Then know before you throw, maintain and repair products, and then borrow, rent, or share. Now, I will not kind of advocate it. It's more of a personal choice. But then I've seen people sharing rides to going at places. They are also sharing a lot of stuff, but it's your own personal choice when it comes to jewelry. Yes, I think that is something. There is a big industry now of renting expensive clothes for marriages also, which you can rent clothes instead of buying them. Medicines, I'm not sure. I think medicines are more to be donated if they're not expired because it should not be that handy available. It can be misused. But yes, we have to be very much clear. And issue written British councils and some things which are coming up. Sheets and old newspapers. Okay. Maintain and rear products, I think we have done a lot. But I need to pass on the same message to my next generation. Now, here is an interesting poster which talks about what can I recycle. So there are top 10 in the bin: cardboard, paper, food boxes, mail, beverage cans. We have food cans, glass bottles, jars, jugs, plastic bottles, and a lot of stuff which we talk about, which can be, kind of recycled. Now, this is one interesting brand. I was doing my research on, different kind of brands which are created just on recycled products. Now, this is one brand which caught my attention. I've kept three such samples for you. Moya, I don't know how do they pronounce it. This is not an Indian brand. So they make sneakers. So this sneaker is actually made from recycled material, and they have made it using fruits, vegetable, plants, polyester, rubber, bamboo, and wood. They've actually taken up this stuff and using that recycled material, they're actually making this interesting sneakers and selling it. And people are buying it. That's an interesting part. And now I will show you some more sample, which is here. Now this is 10 tree. There is another thing, there's a brand which are basically making day-to-day wear and outwear kind of stuff. They're also making some undergarments which can be worn. So this is again a company which is making things out of recycled material. There is another company by the name of POM, which are actually recycling cotton. So if you see, there are brands now coming into the market which are talking about textiles which can be branded and rebranded. I was reading this complete case study which is talking about the amount of textile waste alone our country is generating. Because our country is also one kind of a good product producer of textile goods or textile material, there's a lot of waste which gets left out. And then even the tailors or the factories who are actually using products to create their own brand products, they are leaving a lot of leftovers. Now, if you can recycle and upcycle it, it in itself, uh, uh, we are talking about. Okay, so this is also one thing that you can talk about and we can think about. Now, let's talk about another thing, which is this. So we have Sebastien, which is talking about the kids made lanterns with newspapers, paper bags, newspapers, pencil storage box, and many things. Yes. Now let's talk about certain activities, and that's the final part of the section where I wanted to discuss about certain activities which we can integrate as part of curriculum, and then discussing a complete lesson plan that we can use. Now, the first activity I would like to talk about is having an interactive recycling workshop. That should be part of every school's activities where you're talking about a lot of things that you can do. For instance, set up different bins for paper, plastic, and organic waste. Bring in variety of clean waste items and ask them children to sort them out on the correct bins. Discuss why each item goes in its respective bin and how recycling helps the environment. Now we are talking about inculcating the habit of understanding that why we have to work on it and what exactly we can do. Now that awareness is very much needed. It can be easily said, at times, even when I used to read these posters of dry waste and wet waste earlier, and I used to drink a coffee, and there's a cup which is a plastic, which is basically a cardboard cup that I'm holding in my hand, and there's a paper straw that I'm holding, but then there is a coffee left out, which is there. And I used to get confused that, okay, fine, is this going into wet waste or is this going into dry waste? I don't know how many of you would have faced a situation where we are not clear what kind of waste are we looking at and where it should be rightly placed, because nobody has given us a proper instruction manual about it and discussed about it. And it's not a daily household discussion, but we can make it a school discussion at our level by having such activity. The second is reuse art project. Somebody is already talking about. I think most of us would have done a reuse art project. Most of us would have painted a lot of bottles, would have created art out of bottles, would have created art out of a lot of leftover material in the house. Like the best out of waste is an activity I think we were doing a lot of time in our school when I was young. So we were doing this activity. So you basically bring and organize a lot of old material, the household material which is available, which is no more exactly into usage, and then you create items out of it. So basically, we are pushing towards creativity and teaching importance of reusing items. That's what we are doing through these activities. Further, when we talk into this direction, what we can actually do for our children, there are another set of activities which we can do. For instance, reducing water usage experiment. So we basically ask our children the importance of water conservation, and we ask them to compare the amount of water used in washing hands with the tap running continuously versus using a cup of water. A very simple experiment. You give them a cup of water and you tell them, okay, fine, now you just measure it and clean your water with it. Then you ask them to keep on running the tap and then see the amount of water which gets wasted while someone is trying to actually wash their hands using that, running tap of water. Obviously, we know the results, but you don't realize it till the time you actually run an experiment around it. So you have to genuinely show them through experiments to make them realize this is a bad habit. The first thing I wanted to teach my kids is that while they are brushing their teeth, they should not keep the tap open, because that's a usual habit. They're lazy enough. So you have to tell them, okay, put the soap. Now you have to make sure the tap is closed. Then you open, wash, and then again you have to close the tap. And fortunately, now we have those sensors-driven taps, which makes it comparatively easier. However, we can make it much better for our children. Then talking about recycled plastic. So if you have not done it, please go ahead. It's going to be one of the most interesting activity to run it in your classroom with your children, where you ask them to get dressed up with the material like poly bags, magazines, or cardboards, and then dress up and perform something. Finally, the one activity which I have kept is classroom composting. basically start a small compost bin in the classroom itself. You can keep, a kind of a dustbin size thing, and then you can start keeping and then shifting that material into the garden of your school if you have one, and then they can again start utilizing it. So that's again one activity which can kind of inculcate the practices of the 3R that we are actually discussing with our children. Now, while we are talking about it, I thought, okay, we have spoken about all this, but I want to have the 3R as a cultural thing in my school. Supposingly, I want it to be as a habit. So, how can I integrate into various subjects? So, one example I've already given you of the subject, but what if I have to integrate 3R as a interdisciplinary activity with math? Yeah, great work, Abha, if you're already doing it. That's nice. Now, so there's a lesson plan for it. This is the mathematics of the 3Rs, analyzing our environment impact. So basically, a complete lesson plan. You can take screenshots and you can try it in your. It's a 3 slide lesson plan that I've created. So we are talking about its duration will be some 2 to 3 periods, and we are talking about somewhere around grade 6 to 8. So student will understand the importance of reducing, reusing, and recycling in waste management. They will collect, even they organize, analyze, related to waste production and recycling. Now, if you look at these 3 areas, these are the top 3 in Bloom's taxonomy. So we are also mapping it with Bloom's taxonomy mapping. Now we are talking about students will apply mathematical concept to real world environment issues. Now, how do we do that? Let's come there, but one by one. The next thing is material required is very simple, recyclables. You need scales of measuring weight. You need graph paper. You need some internet access. You can also use, softwares for Excel and other stuff. Now we talk about math standards and science standards that we are covering, which is data analysis, interpretation, fraction, and percentages. And in science, we are talking about environmental science standards that we are covering. How do you do that? So day one is talking about introducing the activity and running the group activity, which is waste audit. You divide the class into small groups and you provide each group with variety of recyclable material. Then you give them task of actually measuring the weight of the waste material that we are producing. And then they have to go back home and track that how much waste was produced in home at one day. So that's more about the measurement part. Similarly, on day two, you collect the data collected by everyone and you start auditing, and then you start calculating the total waste that we are talking about. And then you talk about converting, teaching the students of converting all the weight that they have measured into proper fraction and percentages compared to the total waste collected. So basically, from measurements, you're entering into graphical interpretation. You're also talking about converting them into percentages. You're also talking about converting the whole data into fractions. So you are integrating this activity in a wholesome way. And finally, uh, we are talking about submitting a project based on school or community analysis that basically they will create a plan and they will tell that, okay, this is our observation and this is the numbers, this is the data, and this is what we want to propose as a team, that what we can do to discipline or control the waste in our community versus also the waste at our homes and over at a community level that they want to suggest. So these are few ways in which this can be kind of integrated. So this was majority of the chunk that I wanted to share with you. I'm pretty sure that you have more knowledge compared to what I'm sharing right now. But this was again a reiteration on the thoughts we already have. We already know that there is a problem, but it's important that we keep on talking about it so that we can keep on emphasizing the goal in our school and with our children again and again. While we ended, because we are coming on the few last slides, I would like you to just answer this question, which is there on the slide with you twin. How do you think schools can help improve the recycling process? I would like to know that how do you think schools can help improve the recycling process? Like collection of newspapers, by using the pencil shavings. I think the kindergarten teachers do that by making students aware, compost with through awareness programs for parents, students, and teachers by making compost. So we have a lot of ideas which are there, and everything is all about awareness. It's more about that we should be conscious and we must be aware about what we are doing with our nature and what we are doing with the world and what will be the consequences of it. Being unaware is much more riskier for all of us. Okay, let's go to the next one. How do you think technology can help with 3 Rs? This is just a quick input thing that I need from all of you. How do you think technology can be useful? How can you integrate technology? Okay, spreading awareness. Yes. Spreading information and awareness is something we all are looking at. Google Earth example. Okay, Maninder, you catch it? You could catch it. Reminder alarms. That's nice. I think reminder alarms is something which I like. Making an app. Yes, if you're already running some coding programs in your school, I think you should go ahead with it. There was a project with some students summit on, scanning the waste and then telling that what kind of waste it is. Yes, more real-time practice. Thank you. I think all of you have all these answers. So thank you, teachers. I think I was able to pass on the message to all of you, and we were able to get a lot of information, and I was able to share information. I'm limited on my interactions with you because of the webinar mode, but I believe we were able to have, we were able to communicate and have some interaction and discuss about an important challenge of the 3 Rs. So while we are going in that direction, I would say if you have any queries, please shoot them up and you can fill the feedback form. And I hope all of us will take a pledge to contribute in the journey of sustainability.